Well, hello and welcome to The Right Venue and to The Apprentice, You're Fired. So, Michelle is fame hungry, and there are at least 6 people who don't deserve to be there, so says Najat. We'll find out who they are later. But have you ever been so stressed that you tried to pull off your own ears? Will has.
I really don't. I just think people that probably took a bit more responsibility than they should, and of course these people are the higher risk to go into the boardroom. But I really don't care. I'm glad I took the responsibility because nobody else would have taken the responsibility to do anything that day.
Well, to help me make sense of that and of the rest of what happened tonight, we are joined by a celebrity panel. The first of them is TV celeb Brian Ormond. We also have comedian Mr. John Lynn. And the woman responsible for taking the apprentices out of Dublin and giving them their very own village green from Cadbury, Greta Hamill. As you know, though, we cannot start proceedings without a fired candidate.
Najat, you made a big mistake with the radio. When I asked you, who should I fire? You said you didn't know. For me, you don't fill the boxes that I want. And this one showed something that I don't really want to see. And that's freezing when there's something to be done. So for that reason, you're fired.
Thanks, experience.
Well, she was tipped as a potential winner. She went and made notes of every single task and what she learned after it. We'll ask her what notes she made after this one. Please welcome Najat Faraj. Hi, Najat. How are you? Have a seat. So, if you had made notes, what would they have been for this one?
Definitely would have mentioned somebody to fire. I think that was definitely a mistake on my part.
Task? Why not book the radio?
Will had it in our heads, get everything you can for free because the budget was tight, and he was trying to get the marquee and everything, so we're conscious of costs. So I rang the radio. I never asked them how much would a slot be because I was like, we won't have the money anyway. Put my hands up and I said I didn't. So. And
do you blame the missing radio ads, or do you blame the pushing blindfolded strangers into traffic?
You know, we lost the task because our event just didn't have the buzz that the other event had. And Will and Tara were in charge of that and creating the buzz and getting bands or whatever. We were gone off. Our job was to get footfall. And we bet the other team on getting footfall.
Oh, you had more people actually show up?
Yeah.
Because the sense that you got, I mean, that's when it all focused on the radio, the sense that you got was that you had a much smaller event. It felt like a smaller event when you watched it.
It was very busy. It was really, really busy all day because the groups... well, the teams are very small at that stage as well, so when you're on the field there's so much to do, and at one stage I was just standing there 5 minutes before the event had to open and there was so much to do and everybody was running around. So
let me get this straight, you had more people there and you had more people signed up for the Cadbury email address thing at the end. Greta, is it a bit unfair then that they lost?
Well, I think overall, Najat, you said it yourself, I think there was a much bigger buzz in Tyrrell's Pass, and I think it was down to actually the management of the two locations were quite different. So yes, while there was a huge amount of people that turned up at Timahoe, it felt like organised chaos, if I'm honest, when I went there. Also the sense of the spots versus the stripes and the games and the buzz and the entertainment value was much stronger in Tyrrell's Pass. The Crawl Ball versus the Baba Trap Sheep. The Crawl Ball seemed more exciting, more interesting, more people played that game than they did in Baba Trap Sheep.
John, did you understand Baba Trap Sheep?
I most certainly did not understand Blah Blah Trap Sheep. Even when it was explained, watching it, I didn't really explain. But it was brilliant viewing to look at Panis trying to explain it. I have to say, he's more of a comedian than I could ever be.
But the fact that when the laughter starts, Brian Purcell's head turns bright purple from laughing at Panis. It was worth it for that alone.
Oh yeah, they all did. Even Bill laughed, you know, who has to be... Like, I really felt sorry for you, Najat, when you know, when Bill tells you it's all over and you have to stare into his eyes of chipped marble granite, you know, it's very difficult. And I love the way you say to him, thanks for the experience. I'd love for one of the contestants on the way out to say, do you know what, Bill? You can shove it right up there.
Brian, you're a man who's been to a ton of events. From looking at this one, is it one that you'd say top notch?
I would have got the parents involved a bit more. I would have had a bit more fun with it. Like maybe, you know, kids love looking at their parents, you know, my best mate and his dad against my dad, who's going to be better. So I probably would have involved the adults a lot more. Kids, blindfolding them, one walking out into the road, bit dangerous. Did you not play it before?
No, never. Like this was.
Why not though? Like why didn't you say, right, we'd better try this out and see if it actually works, see if it's a bit of fun. Not that you'd be able to see because you're blindfolded, but you know, why you should have done that?
I thought it was great the way you were thinking, okay, in this recession, companies are downsizing, maybe families should too.
Out you go.
Yeah, you know, we can get rid of one kid per family and bring down costs and we can go forward, you know. I don't know.
Well, maybe it was the killing of, or the potential killing of children that caused it to go wrong, but let's check our thesis for where it went wrong for Najat.
Your task today is to demonstrate creativity in creating some new games for the event.
I was thinking of human sheepdog.
The original game they've come up with is Najat's idea. Now, it could be either a brilliant success or could be an absolute disaster.
The game isn't 100% amazing.
We want maybe our original game that's going to go over there.
I don't know who put Baba Trap Sheep at the very end of the location. I think it was a major oversight.
These judges have just arrived and they're all walking around. There's nobody playing the game, so it's not quite what they intended, I think, as a fun day.
I am worried about tomorrow, yeah. Mind ahead, follow me, mind ahead.
The first thing I saw when I got out of the car was people with blindfolds on the edge of the road.
I was conscious of that and I kept my eye on absolutely everybody there.
Well, I know I certainly thought it was quite dangerous when I saw, and you were there.
Yeah.
And there were still fellas getting very close to the boundary. Did none of you think of a radio station?
I said to Najat, there's two radios, Beat and Midlands 103.
Did you ask them, well, what can I get 7 slots for tonight?
No, I didn't ask them.
Why not?
I don't know. I do put my hands up and I take responsibility for not thinking of that. I don't know why it didn't come into my head. When I called back the guys, nobody else thought of it, but I didn't think of it myself.
Who do you think I should fire?
To be honest, I really don't know, Bill.
You don't know? Okay.
I'm really upset. I didn't expect to get fired today. I said what I had to say in the boardroom and he made his decision, so.
Najat, could you have saved it in the boardroom?
Looking at it now, you know, I can see maybe Bill was like, oh, maybe she's a little bit indecisive because of what I said. I didn't, when he said who should be fired. But it really was a hard loss to our team. We really did work really hard and there was a good buzz in the day, well, we felt as well, and we thought people had fun. And the
but
two
even
guys,
before you get to the bit where the three of you go in at the end and it's the decision of who gets fired, you were willing to accept responsibility for a lot of stuff. Like there was, Jamie was sitting beside you during all the radio ad stuff. The guys played their part in designing where the game was going to be. But you sort of said, yeah, okay, I'll take it on board.
Well, that conversation was with the radio campaign, so that was on me, so I did have to take responsibility for that. You know, that was me who, I came up with the concept of getting the radio idea, and unfortunately couldn't get it at the end. So when Bill was asking that, I took that, you know, I couldn't pass that on to Jamie.
And then for the firing bit, do you not before you go in sit there and say, right, regardless of who performed well or badly, it's going to be me or that guy and I'm going to nail that guy?
Absolutely. You think, you know, you definitely have an idea in your head. You're like, I'm not going home. I do not want to go home. You could have 50 lines in your head before you go into that boardroom and the second you walk through the door, it's blank.
Right, is that in itself almost the reason that Najat should be here? Because the people who seem to get through are the vicious ones. They're the ones who say, yeah, okay, I will crush somebody else.
Yeah, you're on your own there. You've got to fight for yourself. But I think the fact that you were up the week before in front of Bill and, you know, you did the photo shoot with the car and, well, you didn't do the photo shoot with the car. That was like a huge hit to you. And then to be back in there second week and fingers pointing at you.
Absolutely.
I think it was just game over as soon as you were in there again.
Absolutely, that's what I felt. That particular boardroom the week previous for the Ford task, that was a really tough boardroom.
What happened there though? Why didn't you say, right, this is for Ford, it's got to be in the photograph?
But see, that was it. I think the conversation between myself and Sarah, and obviously it was very heated on the episode, there was just a massive miscommunication.
Let's remind ourselves of the line. I think it was anal control freak. Yeah, that's pretty heated.
I'll never live that down. But yeah, it was really frustrating. As Sarah said herself, we didn't get to meet up at the end of the day, which we normally do, and we get to regroup, and she would ask us, but we were completely separate. So it was literally really noisy background. Sarah was, get these photos, and what we were trying to explain was, it's impossible to get the photos that you want. The clock was ticking, and she wasn't getting the message, and I was like, give me that phone, I'll tell her, you know.
Well, to tonight's episode then, in the boardroom, John, if you had been Najat, given your technique for telling Bill your version of thank you when you do get fired, how would you have...
I would want to do that, but I doubt it. If
well, what could you have done, or what could have been done to save yourself or herself in the boardroom?
Well, I think it makes you much more likeable to TV audience that you didn't decide to smear everyone else. I mean, Ciara, the poor girl, ends up in there every week, really, and there isn't a peep out of her during the whole show. She's just kind of sitting in the background, hiding behind the couch, and then as soon as she's brought in front of the boardroom, it's like X-Men, Wolverine. She's claws out, and there's blood everywhere, you know, and you kind of just decided to fall on your sword, I think, a little bit. You know,
looking at it, I was a bit sad watching it. I looked very sad. Not upset, but sad. I looked very...
Sort of
I did look very defeated, and it was because with the previous boardroom, and Bill was like, Najat, I want you to step up your game. I step up my game.
But see, this is one of the things that surprised me, because maybe I'm biased, but I had you tipped as a winner, and a few of the websites had you tipped as a winner. And Mairead Fleming from Brightwater is with us every week. Mairead, what was your views on this task and on the boardroom? Was it fair that Najat got the bullet at the end of it?
I think it was for this particular task. I think Panis, actually, he really stuck up for himself and he communicated why he should still be there. Actually, for me, Will was probably the weakest. And I felt he perhaps should have gone this week. I think he did panic a lot and he didn't really display any signs of a true leader. Now, Najat, I think in the earlier tasks, you performed very, very well and you came across very well, and I think that's why the websites were following you. But in the most recent tasks, you didn't really shine. Unfortunately, your cards were marked from last week. But you're clearly a very intelligent girl. You've got your MA. And the fact that you were making notes and trying to improve yourself in the notes that you were taking shows that you do take these points on board. So you did very well, but it's just a pity. I think you will go far, and I think there will be a huge amount of opportunities for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mairead. One of the things, we always think that the boardroom is the most terrifying bit of this entire process. It turns out it's not. It's not half as frightening as pop-ups and balloons. Have a look at this clip and pay particular attention to Dave Cashman.
The other lads just went to cut me, but wow.
That's it for part one, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, we have Barry speaking his own version of English, we have Panos on a megaphone, and Will starts shaking trees. Well, hello and welcome back to the right venue. Greta, the winning team, were they that much better? Was there anyone on it who stood out? Was there anything in the task that you thought that was particularly impressive?
Yeah, I suppose there's a number of things on the task itself as that was much better, I suppose. And the first thing was they created a buzz around Tyrrell's Pass the night before. So even driving through the night before, they had signs up, they had Phosphate Stripes campaigns up, and they also got stuck in themselves. The candidates really got stuck in bringing people to the games, playing games with them. There was much more entertainment, so they had Irish dancers, they had vintage cars, they had more face painting, so there was an awful lot more of a buzz. And also their game that they came up with, they actually had that at the very beginning when you walked into the event, rather than Najat, your game was down the back, which I think it was harder to get people there. Yeah. I think Michelle impressed me on that task. It was her first task, I think, as project leader, and I think she really impressed me, and it was interesting to see how herself and Barry worked together, because they had thought they may not have, but Barry actually got really stuck in as well. So Michelle and Barry, for me.
And did they spark off each other? Was there arguments between them that you saw?
I had seen, at the beginning, Barry comments on the fact that Michelle dictates a bit to him. But he seemed to thrive on it. They seemed to work well together, even though they didn't necessarily naturally click. But I think the two of them very much impressed me in that task. Yeah.
Did they have, Brian, you might have viewed this, did they have an unfair advantage because they had Dave Cashman? Because Dave Cashman's
he does events, I don't think so, you know, like it's a family fun day. Like, people know how to enjoy themselves. Like if I was on that team, I'd say, right, what would I want if I went to this family day? So I don't think it was that much of a huge advantage that he was